They want to hear about your paint-splattered overalls while you ate chocolate croissants, throwing acrylic paint in the air and seeing how it makes you feel.
Hi, I'm Nat,
And I'm Catherine.
and this is Art Buds.
Art Buds is a podcast about being an artist in Ontario.
On this episode, we're talking with Matthew Donaldson. He is a Guelph-based artist working in oils. Matt's current work consists of moody landscapes, quiet places that some viewers might find uneasy, while others find respite from the uneasiness of the rest of the world.
Matt has been showing in Guelph and Toronto for more than a decade. We both know him from being in the Guelph Emerging Artist Mentorship Program together, held by Guelph Arts Council back in December.
We had a wide-ranging conversation with Matt about his art origins, the unsexy business side of art, why he's against showing in cafes and restaurants, and the value of seeking out artist peers who don't necessarily share your way of thinking.
Both he and I were in Art on the Street together last month, so this is where the conversation starts.
Well, before we get into Matt's history and art practice, we figured we'd have a quick conversation about how Art on the Street went, since both of you were at it for the first time.
Oh, baby artist doing baby things. How was your go for it?
Interesting. It was a mixed bag for me. I have a lot of experience with galleries and showing and putting on shows with galleries. So this was legitimately a first-time experience for me doing an outdoor show. And it was a steep learning curve. So the actual event was very interesting. I thought my setup was pretty good, but once it was all up, but I realized a lot of blind spots, a lot of things I hadn't considered at the time.
Like
I didn't have a
what?
chair,
Hmm.
so I just grabbed my camping stool. And of course, I was across from Olivia, who had this magnificent sort of like wood camp chair with this very soft cushion on it. I just spent the 10 hours just sitting in this camp stool in the corner, just glaring, just so jealous of that chair. But yeah, there was a few things going forward that I would change doing another outdoor market. And I have a few more ideas that I'm actually kind of excited about.
What are the things, what would you change, like, for the people who are maybe...
I thought going in, I kind of nixed the idea of a table just to maximize the space for paintings. And I
Right.
realize now that a table actually gives you a place to hide all your stuff.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I'm like trying to collect it in this pile that I'm perched on like a hen on a stool and realizing, the first time mistakes and the learning curve and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Sales wise, didn't strike out, but pretty far from break even.
Hmm.
It's a very strange perspective thing because on one hand I sold 4 pieces, which is great. My previous show I sold 3 pieces. But on the other hand, on my previous shows, I've sold 3 pieces, but I had 4 in them.
Mm-hmm.
Show before that, I had 5 pieces and I sold all of them. So I
Mm-hmm.
sold out. So I sold out on one show, almost sold out of another show. And then for Art in the Street, I had 16 pieces and sold 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you,
I wonder
perspectives.
how much people actually sell at this show in particular compared to others, and if the benefit of it is less sales versus exposure in the local community, or...
It depends. So my Art in the Street background is interesting because I coordinated it for 2 years. From the sales perspective, there has been a rather interesting change in the last 3. Now this is the 4th year, in the sense that economy is not great.
Mm-hmm.
So people aren't buying big things.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, right. But they're and they spend a lot more time thinking about those big things. So the first time I ever worked Art on the Street, I did see customers leaving with pretty large pieces,
Mhm.
and that hasn't been happening. Just as a person who's coordinated it and worked it,
Mm-hmm.
I have seen that less and less and less.
I have friends who have done Art in the Street, artist friends, and yeah, they would say they'd make mid 4 figures pretty easily.
Have they done it in the last couple of years?
2 years ago.
I also think Art on the Street is like there are some big staples. Like Michelle Miller, for instance,
Mhm.
she's a major artist
Bunny Safari's been doing it for 20 years.
Bunny Safari's been doing it for 20 years. Like those are local names,
Yeah.
right? Even though Art on the Street is a juried exhibition, they have artwork that gets in every year. So people know they're going to be there. Like it's kind of like a collector's. For us newbies, they don't know us. So they're not gonna like they're gonna come into our booth, they're gonna suss us out, and then they're gonna walk away.
Right. The familiarity of what they're collecting.
Yeah, but for like for staples like Bunny Safari, Michelle Miller, Clive Lewis, right? Like they know those artists, they know they're always there. So like if they don't pick up a piece this year, they'll pick up a piece next year. I think that's like the difference between our experience and like maybe someone who's been there for quite a long time, right?
And to speak on the elephant in the room, I do not think the construction helped.
Yeah.
No,
At all.
that didn't help. Mind you, I did think our section was busy.
It was busy in the morning. The afternoon tapered off pretty significantly, I would think.
Oh, I only noticed like a real slowdown around like 4 o'clock, and that's when like it really felt like it was slow.
So will you do it next year, or will you apply next year?
Oof. I am still very much in recovery mode. I could have slept all day yesterday. It was wild. But we'll have to see where I am next year. There's some things, there's part of me that's like, it honestly was just not worth the cost and effort, tragically. But there's another part of me that's just like, I have so many better ideas for next year that I can't wait. So it's a toss up. We'll have to see how that cookie crumbles.
Catherine, what did you learn from it? What was the experience like for you?
So as an art teacher who taught in high schools, I realized that like from a career standpoint, I've never really been able to talk about being an artist.
That's the worst.
And to be honest with you, I've never been taught how to be an artist. Like I've never been told what it is to be an artist outside of just like be creative, right? Like they don't teach you that in university. They don't teach you that in high school.
They don't teach you a lot of things in university.
Yeah.
But also there's a few things like, how do they even begin to teach you that in university? You know, that's something so subjective about how I feel like in that specific case, it really is something that you have to figure out for yourself, how to talk about your art.
Oh, see, I'm gonna disagree with you.
Okay.
I like from the teacher's perspective, you can't teach someone to learn a style. You can't like that comes with time, and you can't teach someone how to figure out their own brand or who they are as an artist and their creative process. That is a lot of trial and error. You can give them tools and tricks and tips, but like that is time and process. But in terms of like the business prospect of being an artist, like that is a course. People take business courses.
100%.
And I think that's what is the major missing point in being an artist, is that it's not just like, hey, you need to live a creative life. You need to learn organization skills so that way you set a like consistent studio time. But it's also like, hey, we need to teach you that like being an artist means doing your own finances and being your own business manager and being your own advertisement and being your own like newsletter writer and blogger, and like learning art fairs was like kind of a step in like being able to be like, okay, like this is a path.
Another point that I was alluding to earlier, like with galleries and working with galleries and in galleries, there's a group of people. There's at least one other. There's usually 2 or 3 who are doing a lot of that work, who work at the gallery, who own the gallery and are doing promotions, or at least they're there to help you set up and organize for those art fairs. Particularly those outdoor art fairs. It was really like I had to put on every hat. I was the curator, I was the tech support, I was the union teamsters, there was the setup, there was the labor, as well as the marketing and social outreach team, and of course the artist who woke up at 5:45 in the morning. There's only so many words in the day, so only so many people you could talk to before you're just like huddled in the back corner on your camping stool. It has sort of the joy of being independent. Like you did everything is like DIY. You did it all yourself, more or less. And then a gallery is very much sort of a larger, more organized, maybe. Yeah.
It makes me understand why they ask for like large sums of like your fee, right? Like I kind of get
The commissions?
Yeah, I kind of get it. At first I was like, whoa, that's just fraud and scam. And I'm like, well, if they're the ones connecting your work to someone else and you're not having to do that, maybe it makes a little sense.
I'm so excited that the conversation has pivoted to business, because that's a big thing that that was on my agenda. I'm like, I really want to talk about business, because people in art groups and art communities don't talk about business.
No, they don't.
At all. Maybe because it's not fun, but also maybe because it's not taught and they just don't know a lot of that stuff.
I think it's also not sexy, right?
Yeah.
When people think about an artist, they
Yeah.
don't really want to hear about their day-to-day
margins.
replying to emails and the margins and the framing, and it's
Yeah.
not cool.
And going through every single receipt you have.
They want to hear about your paint splattered overalls while you ate chocolate croissants, throwing acrylic paints in the air and seeing how it makes you feel.
Exactly.
They don't want to hear about you like just literally spending 12 hours just crunching through admin emails and responding to. But I'm 100% pro galleries taking commissions. I think that's absolutely important. If you're out there,
only if the gallery is actually doing their job.
with the big caveat of that, if they're out there promoting your work and selling your work, 100% take that. Like, you earn that 40%, 50%, whatever it is. If you sell that work, then or if you sell that artwork and are doing the labor that it takes to sell it, that deserves to be compensated. If they're taking 40% for doing nothing, that's a scam. If they don't have contact lists, if they don't have social promotions, if they don't have social media staff, if they don't ask you questions about how to talk about how to sell your work and what it means to you, that's a gallery you should avoid. That's a gallery not doing the work. And if you're out there as a brand new artist looking for avenues and a way to get your work out to the market, that's something that you should definitely be aware of and do your research. Make sure that galleries are putting in the work that they say they're doing.
I also think that goes the same for restaurants. If you're doing a restaurant show and they're taking commission, they better be promoting your work.
If you're a new artist, I would say do not put your artwork in cafes or restaurants.
Oh, why is that?
It's part of a larger conversation, I think, about the culture and really valuing art and devaluing artists. There is a long sort of well-established social norm of exploitation that kind of goes unsaid. And cafes and restaurants, I think, are one of the biggest examples of it. Not to point anyone out, not that they're doing it maliciously. It's just something that has crept in and become standard, that when you sit back and look at it, it's very exploitative. What is happening is you are providing free interior design for this restaurant, for this cafe. You are doing the work. They're getting the benefit. And maybe someone might see your name on it. Maybe they'll Google your digital information, maybe. But it really has next to no benefit for you, the artist, in my experience, I would say. If a cafe, with some exceptions, you're just decorating a space for free. If they want to buy your work, that's of course a different story, which is...
How many shows did you do before you came around to this perspective?
Probably about a decade's worth.
And so what brought you around to this perspective?
Well, I've been showing in restaurants and cafes, probably exclusively for more or less the past decade. And I think I've sold one piece. I then started pursuing gallery work a little bit more, put that more as a priority, and then sold out. I have sold more work in the past 10 months than I have in the past 15 years.
Do you think that doing the cafe and restaurant shows helped build a foundation that made you more interesting to galleries, that allowed you to actually start showing your work in galleries? Like, is there any value potentially that way?
Not really.
No?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the galleries that I was showing it was in Toronto, who had never heard my name. The restaurants and cafes have been local in Guelph and Fergus, so there was not a whole lot there to connect those places directly to the galleries that wanted to work with me and show my art. So yeah, as an artist, like it's really easy to fall in the trap of like, there are eyeballs on my work that has value. If you're looking to do arts as a career, like, eyeballs are great, but eyeballs don't pay the rent. Eyeballs don't buy the paint.
So what about shows, like gallery shows, but that have an entry fee? How do you feel about that?
That's a scam. That's a con. That's absolutely exploitative.
I'm going to disagree with you again there. And here's the reason why I disagree with you. So right now I'm pretty much a volunteer for curating a show. Color is. They're going to give me an honorarium, which is nice, but the honorarium is not going to pay my gas money to install the show. Okay? Working for the Guelph Arts Council, doing many juried shows, all with free submissions, doing art on the street, free submissions before. And it is a lot of administration work.
Oh, 100%.
It is a lot of hours responding to emails. It is a lot of hours putting together the slideshow for juries. And it's a lot of hours. It's a lot of man hours that initially, like Guelph Arts Council, I wasn't getting paid a whole lot.
Oh, of course.
Right? And I'm not getting paid for this volunteer position
Absolutely.
a whole lot, which we can have a conversation about how exploitive that sometimes feels. However, if you have a small minimal administration fee and it explains why and what that actually does, I don't have a problem with it, because at the end of the day, I don't see Dougie funding the arts in Ontario. I don't see my tax-paying dollars going to funding the arts. I see them going to police, but I don't see them going to the arts.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how else are we going to pay these people? Because we can't keep doing this for free. We cannot have artists continuously doing this for free. This is work. This is real labor.
100%.
This is 100% manpower that sometimes I think administration fees make sense, because how else are you, like, we can't just keep everyone doing this on volunteer basis.
I fully agree. It shouldn't be on a volunteer basis. That's a lot of labor. It's a lot of hours, and that deserves to be compensated, demands to be compensated, should be compensated. But putting the compensation responsibilities of that on the artist, I think, is where I differ. That's the draw. That's what's bringing the butts in the seats, so to speak. And this is the people that are doing a lot of the work to create this event. To put it another way, reframe it in another industry, or just reframe it like you're going to a job interview and they send you an invoice without giving you a job for $50 because it's a lot of work to have HR like interview you for it. That's a good point. You'd be like, no, I'm not paying this invoice. This is bananas.
That's a good point. That's a good point. That's a good point.
In labor, but I 100% agree. Labor should be compensated. That should be coming from the galleries. There should be funding for the arts, absolutely. But there are ways to pay your people. Professional galleries have ways to do that. They know all the grants that they have people who are actively, their job is to get these grants and get the money coming. They have donors, they have collectors lists that bring in the money. And I'm not opposed to, like, if you need that upfront cash, like, charge an admission fee, charge $5 for people to come in and see your art. They're getting a value out of that from seeing your work, which has value. So, just like venues will charge cover to see bands, like, charge $5 to come in to see the gallery showing and get the free wine and the PC cookies.
So I don't disagree. I'm just curious where you fall on a gallery like Necessary Arts, for example, because we've all had shows there and there is a fee associated with showing at Necessary Arts. And you're the most recent of the three of us to show there. So how do you square that circle?
It's a funny converse. I feel like it's one of, like, not that you're doing like a gotcha question, but it is kind of like a.
I'm not trying to get you.
No, I know. But it just brings, like, oh, you're anti-capitalist. Why you spend money on stuff? It's like, well, yeah, the system sucks and I don't agree with it, but it's also the system that we have right now. Yeah, I don't agree with it, but, I like Necessary Arts. I like Janelle wanted, like, this is what they had set up and I want to do a show with them. So that's the way it is. But that's sort of a moral distinction that I made myself to do that. If I'm giving advice, I would say it's kind of inevitable, but, do your research. Make sure this is people that you want to work with at the very least. Make sure you're getting, like, you have all of the pieces in place to maximize the value for you, because you have already done months of work, years of work, decades of work.
If you have to spend money, make sure it's fair trade organic galleries. Is that... I'm being a bit facetious, but I think Necessary Art sort of falls a little bit more into that fair trade organic rather than like a fully exploitative mode.
Oh, like on a, if we're grading on a scale, if we're looking at it, absolutely. You can, like, pick and choose across the board. But overall, it's just a culture and sort of a norm that has come up that really, I think, is very backwards. And would be very obviously backwards if it was in any other industry.
I don't think there's any right or wrong way, right? Because, like, I paid a submission fee for a juried show. I got into the trade show, but I know that I'm getting now an artist fee because I'm now part of that trade show, which covers, I think I make $10 from that. I think I paid $40 to submit 2 artworks. One artwork got in, I'll get $50 back. It's not great, right? But my submission fee is now covered, and then I make $10. So like, is that how we do it? Like, is that,
I don't know. Is that how you do it? Like $10. So
like, it's not
you
great.
work in mixed media, right? You do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Does $10 cover the time that it takes to do your average piece? Does it cover the materials?
Oh gosh, no. No, but if I were to truly charge, like if I were to truly charge the hours and the materials for anyone to buy one of my paintings, I would never sell anything because I'm not Keith Haring. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, like, there's got to be like a, like, I don't know the right answer.
It's difficult because it is so ingrained. Art has, I think, such a high value, and artists have such a low value. There's this disconnect, especially in North America. Art is everywhere. Billboard, advertisements, it's all art. Graphic design, art. You pick up a can of Coke, that's art. You pick up a magazine, art. Art is everywhere. Turn on Netflix, it's all art. You know, that big joke in the pandemic of the non-essential businesses were all the creative businesses that were shut down first. And then everyone went into their homes and turned on Netflix. It's like, well, it seems pretty essential to me. But the arts industry has this running theme of artists are going to do it for the love of the game. So it's okay to take advantage of that as a business because you can offload that cost to people who are going to do it for free. That shouldn't be. You should be compensated for your work. And when you have to charge less than the materials it takes to do a piece, not to mention your time or expertise, that's just, it's not right to do so. How do we change that? I think it's just teaching the business side of the market to artists is a big step. Being like, hey, just because you love the game, that doesn't detract from the value of your work. Just because you would do this for free doesn't mean your work should be free. That is a feature, not a bug. That's a pro, not a con. Because I don't want to see art made by people who legitimately hate art. It's awful. No one wants to see that. The love you bring to your art is the value there.
I think there's an analogy to be made with pro athletes.
They get paid a butt ton.
A metric butt ton.
And nobody seems to worry about
we don't.
The fact that their work is completely ephemeral and
they have a lifespan, like a very significant
very short lifespan. Yeah.
Where I was going to say artists don't have much of a lifespan. If anything, they keep painting until they're dead. And then even after that, their artwork is still emerging.
Ongoing joke is it's even more valuable.
Exactly.
Let's shift gears for a bit. When we talked at Art on the Street, we were talking about you showing landscapes versus your last show at Necessary Arts was a lot of hands.
Yeah.
So, and you said that the hands was like something that you had actually been working on for a number of years. What led to the end of the hands and what led to the new direction in landscapes?
I have an answer for that, and then I have the true answer for that.
Okay, let's hear them both.
I started off oil painting about 20 years ago when I was living in Ottawa. In Ottawa, I was connected with a bunch of artists, all very young.
Just like you were
20,
then.
Yeah, just like I was then, exactly. 20-something, just dumbasses, didn't know anything. We would scramble. We would like pull together all of our student loans to rent out a space and start our own gallery, which just lasted maybe a week. We had one gallery called the Electric Gallery, which lasted about a week before the owners kicked us out because of all the empties and beer stains. And we would thought, art was a big party, and that's how we treated it. I will say I did learn a lot of stuff through failure, but the subject matter was mostly people, figure work, the punks and the artists and portraits of them that I saw every day, that I was friends with, that I lived with, which evolved into kind of sort of tattooed portraits. I really enjoyed the challenge of making the tattoos look like they were on the skin rather than just placed on top of the picture.
Were you doing actual tattoos or like are you?
No, I was just doing tattooed portraits. So just painting.
Explain.
Just painting people with tattoos.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So, and that devolved to just kind of like painting just arms or torsos or legs or something with the tattoos. And then that kind of just became just hands, just painting hands. Tattooed hands for the most part, but I did that nearly exclusively for since 2005, and then in 2004, I just got bored.
Hmm.
I needed something new. I needed a change. I had avoided landscapes. In my head, landscapes were all cottagecore, like all just, blue
Granny sort
skies,
of.
green trees,
Something on your grandma's wall.
something on your ground as well. Exactly.
Bob Ross.
Bob Ross, 100% Bob Ross. So I sat back and I'm like, I've gone as far as I am interested in going with all of these figurative human body part work. I wanted something new, something challenging. So I said, how do I construct a landscape that I find interesting? And so I started doing a series of landscapes that were more moody, more dramatic, sort of like twilight or dusk, where the lighting was the most extreme. I tried to do a few plein air studies. I enjoyed it, but my equipment setup right now is garbage, so I don't get to do that as much as I like. So right now I just use a camera and go take photographs for references. But I started very quickly falling in love with it. It's always a surprise when you try something new and you find out, like, this is the best thing ever. And then, I guess this is sort of the true answer and the short answer. They started to sell.
Fair.
I was like, I guess this is what I do now.
Hmm.
This is the work that I'm really enjoying and having fun with, and it's making me kind of some money on the side. I mean, why not?
Mm-hmm.
You have one forest scape that you posted on Instagram, and I literally just wanted to walk into it. I was like, oh my God, this makes me think of Emily Carr.
Don't do it. I feel like if you walk into any one of my you just get eaten. Something's going to eat you.
That's okay. That's okay. Because, like,
This is how I want to go.
Let's go back to hands for a sec. You said that hands were the key to mastering the human form. Why did you say that? And were they?
Oh, it's nonsense. Well, no, it's not nonsense. Look, I spend so much time making art. I spend so much time analyzing color, mixing color, matching color, making marks that I like that represent me as a person to form into shapes that make a form, and enough forms make a painting. There's so much energy to do. And then someone comes along and is like, what's your art about? And you're like, I'm done. I did all the work. This is you. You tell me. You look, this art is for you now. It's out in the market. I do firmly believe that once you put it out, it's no longer yours. It's interpretive. It's for other people to take what they want from it. That was something I wrote because someone made me write it for. What was that from? Is that from Necessary Arts? Is that yeah? It's from your artist statement. And there's nothing darker than talking about your art, especially after you did it. It's like, if I could talk good, I would have done that. I can't. So this is why I'm doing this.
How did you get started making art?
How did I get started making art? I've been making art since I was born. My parents put like crayons in my hands when I was just old enough to be able to hold them. And then that's just been going on since there.
So tell us more maybe about what brought you to oil painting specifically. And then I want to hear more about this punk scene in Ottawa.
Well, it's kind of the same story. I met a friend, did tree planting for a couple years, so that sent me all over the country. So just kind of was enjoying being a little
nomadic
punk kid with, 22 and whole life is ahead of you. All that nonsense. But yeah, it was in Ottawa where I started establishing like a larger group of artists, and a artist in particular was just like, you got to paint in oils. Just this closest friend who was just, it was like, oils is the only way to paint. It was the only way to do it.
What were you painting before? Acrylics or?
Watercolor, ink drawings, mostly. Anything that was cheap and I could travel with.
Mm-hmm.
So not so much acrylics, but something you could throw in a bag and then jump on a Greyhound bus and go across the country that day on impulse if I wanted to. But they were like, no, acrylics, oils are the best. Oils are like the peak of the mountain. Oil painting is what real artists do. I was like, really? Okay. And so I scraped together as much money as I could, and I bought a whole bunch of oil paints and turpentine and painted my first oil painting, and it was just like love at first sight. The thing about oil paints is that sort of no matter what you do, because of the chemical nature of them, they will reflect the light and they will always look alive in a way that acrylics don't. You can add a whole bunch of mediums to make acrylics really kind of similar to oil paints, but just on their own, they dry very matte. They dry darker than you put them on. Oil paints just kind of have this viscosity, have this life to them, this luminosity that is immediately apparent. And even when you don't know what you're doing, I felt like it was very, very easy just to make something that looked gorgeous, like right off the bat. And I had fun. A lot of my early stuff was very mixed media. I had no idea what fat over lean even meant. I hadn't heard about fat over lean. I was spray painting over wet oil paints and having the whole thing like crack and crumble, which I thought was like really cool and had all these cool effects. I was just doodling on Sharpie on it and just like making a big mess, and it was awesome. And from there, after like messing around with it for so long, that's when the love of it kind of crept in, and then I started taking it more seriously. I think probably like 2 or 3 years into oil painting. That's when I started to really go into a deep dive of oil painting as a painting medium, the artists who did it, what artists I love, doing master copies, emulating what they did. Like, I wouldn't have called it this at the time, but the actual studying and scholarly work of how to achieve paintings that I felt I wanted to achieve.
Your landscape paintings aren't, I'm assuming they're not quite true to life colors. So how do you choose your color palette? This is a Catherine question.
This is a Catherine question.
What do colors mean to me? You'd be shocked at how true to life they might be. I have a deep respect for hyperrealism and hyperrealist artists. The technical dedication it takes to get that good is incredible. And I don't want to be misunderstood from the next thing that I say, which is I think paintings, the value, in my personal opinion, of paintings is that they are paintings.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have something that's indistinguishable from a photograph, there's nothing there that distinguishes the artwork from painting to photograph, except for your 300 hours it took you to paint it. I like paintings that have that sort of fantasy to them, have that sort of like not quite reality. It's paintings that look like someone painted them, that the human hand is there. So my color palette is sort of in that same vein. I try to stylize, I try to romanticize and dramatize the colors that are already there. So if a rock has like kind of a bluish tint, like make it like really bring out the bluish to it. If like the trees at twilight are kind of like purple, like just hammer that purple, just really kind of make it as sort of bold and dramatic as you can.
There's a lot of your paintings have a sort of spookiness to them.
Yeah.
It's very Caravaggio.
Very Caravaggio.
It's that moody, right? It's that drama.
Yeah, it's a narrative. It says something a little bit more than like the grass is green and the sky is blue. You have a more of an emotional, visceral reaction to it.
Yeah. It is dramatized.
It's a very specific kind of emotional, visceral reaction, though, right? It is verging on the spooky side of things rather than the splendor and majesty and so where.
I think we've
Where's
had
that
enough
coming
of that.
from?
I think there's enough artists who do that.
I'm not suggesting that I'm just wondering why does Matt make those kind of paintings?
So with be air quotes for our listeners here, my success of the past 2 years, of course, I've had to write a lot about my work. It's been a lot of BS. It's been a lot of like reading like websites and art books and how do people write about art. I just copy this and like, oh, I'm evoking blah 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 blah. But in doing that enough times, you start to stumble in on things that are actually true. Sometimes amusingly after the fact. I very recently kind of wrote something and looked at it and I'm like, actually, I think that was kind of true. Damn it. But I am an artist with mental disabilities, challenges. I have ADHD and I'm currently going through the screening process for autism. So a lot of my life I've been sort of alone, we'll say. And I've had a lot of comfort in being alone. Social situations tend to stress me out. My social battery is low. I have audio processing issues and things can be like pretty overwhelming. So these areas that people sometimes would find like distressing, disturbing, unsettling, I've actually kind of been really attracted to places like the dark woods because it's quiet and there's not a whole lot of people there. And you can just sort of relax. And so that has been very interesting to me, to watch people have different reactions to these paintings than I would. I find them very comforting. Some people come up and like, that's really dark and depressing. And I'm like, cool, okay. But, once you put a painting out there, it becomes for the public to interpret, and it's really out of your hands.
Which makes it terrifying.
Hmm?
Personally, I think putting your paintings out there in the world and being like, all right, it's no longer mine. I think that part is absolutely terrifying.
Precious babies.
They are.
Precious, precious babies.
Because they're a part of your soul.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're a part of a soul. They're a part of you in a moment where you were processing whatever you're processing, dealing with whatever you're dealing with. Like, there's many times where, like, I am crying while I'm painting because I'm working through something. And that's completely, totally for me. But now I'm like, okay, and now I have to let you go and give it away. Not give it away, but sell it and hope someone likes it enough to sell. And you're like, I cried in front of that. How do you tell that to people? You don't tell that to people.
Or worse, they go, so what's this painting about?
Yeah.
Like,
I was crying the whole time.
The whole time. It's an interesting effect. Those are my tears.
Well, it's funny you say that because the amount of times that I have a painting and I literally destroy it with water to then come back and fix it. Like, those are my metaphorical tears, friends. Like, I don't think a lot of people understand that, like, art is part of, like, the human process, the human existence of, like, being there in front of the painting as a human with all your emotions and feelings and thoughts and concerns and worries and anger and hunger and sleepy tiredness, and you put that all into a canvas. Like, you're now showing that to everyone else, being like, all right, what are your thoughts?
There's a comic artist and graphic designer that I love named Paul Pope, who in an interview said what I think is the most poignant description of art that may have ever been said. And he said what art is to him. I'm going to be paraphrasing the crap out of this. But he said art is the ability to add to a conversation that has been going on since cave people were painting walls.
Mm-hmm.
To make art and to put it out into the world is to join in a conversation that includes Picasso and Van Gogh and Caravaggio and Ook, the caveman painter from, it's a way of reaching back into time all the way to like the year dot when we were climbing out of the sludge and into the future, to the artists that don't exist yet, who haven't been born yet. And that has always been very poignant and inspiring to me.
Mm-hmm.
When did you move to Guelph? And then tell us about how has Guelph been for you in terms of your art practice compared to, it sounds like you show some work in Toronto. I don't know if you're showing work elsewhere, but...
I moved to Guelph in 2007. Guelph has been a struggle, if I'm being honest with you. I'm going to contradict some of your previous guests, and I don't think it has a very strong arts community.
Interesting.
I will right now say this, take my opinions with a grain of salt, because I'm very much an art hermit. So, the trope of sitting here doing this work in my living room, being like, no one likes my art. Why can't they just appreciate how good I am here in my living room where all my art pieces are, not leaving my living room or going outside or telling people about anything, but it's really good and people should appreciate me more.
It sounds like you know the answer to your troubles.
Yeah.
So as somebody who's just been
Fighting
in art
the moral of that story pretty hard.
As someone who's just been in art on the street, and also you were in GAMP, you showed at Necessary Arts all in the last like 6-ish months. I'd like to understand more what you're finding difficult about the Guelph art scene.
Yeah, it's how do I phrase this? I was meeting a lot of artists that weren't like-minded to me so much, and so didn't feel like I fit in per se with the artists and the art that was being created. Only recently, past couple of years, I realized that I was doing myself and the community a big disservice by like, that doesn't necessarily matter. There's lots to learn by people. In fact, there's more to learn about people doing stuff different from you than there is in people doing the same thing that you are doing.
Mm-hmm.
You grow by going out of your comfort zone and going to meet people, and especially when they have different views or different perspectives than you do, creating different art than you do. You learn something new. But overall, I felt that it was, I think, sort of a microcosm of a larger issue that we kind of touched about already on how Ontario, Canada, North America has skewed value systems of art and artists. So there's a lot of hobbyists. I don't want to say amateurs. I mean, I'm going to do a caveat again. Everyone is an artist, but there's a bit of a disconnect, I feel like, from people pushing the narrative that art's value is in the doing of it rather than art as a thing that's valuable in itself. Does that make sense? As if there's these two groups that are saying art only has value from its therapeutic or personal individual growth benefits. And another group saying, no, art's only valuable if it is good enough to sell for $1 million. I think, both are true. I think the overemphasis of one over each other is really doing a disservice to both.
So how do we fix it in Guelph specifically? Because I expect you have answers.
How do we change the world? I have a lot of opinions. If everyone just did what I say, the world would be a better place.
I've had that thought many times.
I know. All good people do. I don't have all the answers. I don't know. But I do think a good start is, and I'm speaking from personal experience too, artists have a tendency to devalue their own work.
I think that comes from culture itself. We
Yeah.
don't have a culture and an education system that values art from
100%.
day dot, right? How many times as a child and as an adult have you heard that art is not a real job?
But I think we also don't, as non-artists, learn about purchasing art. Like, I grew up in a house that had original art, but it was only original art that was made by family members. None of it was ever purchased. The idea of buying art was like something that millionaires did, right? So I think that you're right. We're missing this piece of cultural education. I don't know that that's necessarily something that has to happen in schools. I think that's something that maybe can happen in families and
It could
sort of
happen
the society at large, right? I mean, we've got no problem teaching people how to buy pretty much anything else. This capitalist society that we live in is happy to shell out lots of money for everything except for original pieces of art, whether it's painting, whether it's...
Well, we certainly have taught everyone to go to HomeSense to buy that printed stuff.
But I think just for practical advice that I think is useful, but to stop undervaluing ourselves and our own works. I worked at this restaurant and it had a number of different artists showing there. All, of course, were just showing there. None of them were paid, but the works were for sale. And this one artist who was doing little like 5x7 canvases, and they were just these beach paintings. It's like somebody who's just a retired person just started taking up acrylic painting, landscape painting, would write the price and their name and the price right directly on it on Sharpie, and they were selling it for $40. And they would sell 2 or 3 of them. And meanwhile, all the rest of the people who were up or who were working artists were just like fuming because they works which were priced
appropriately,
honestly, well, cheap. They were priced for a couple $100, but for an original oil painting, that might even be less than cost. For like, just as an example, my works, I've priced out each painting roughly, let's say like an 8x10 canvas. It's about $100 in material costs alone, just between paint and I think it was $120 is like my material cost per each painting. So when you're painting, when you're pricing your paintings at like $40, you're just like, I just love it. You're allowed to love what you do, and you're allowed to, assign your own value. But in the context of the larger market, if you're selling your paintings for $40 and everyone else is selling them for $200, it's skewed, right? It's off balance.
You're undercutting everybody else.
Undercutting everybody else. And as artists, it's the same thing, right? It's like there's this notion of like, I would do it for free, and therefore the value of it is skewed.
Baseball players would probably play baseball for free, but they make
absolutely.
millions. Don't
Yeah.
we pay them millions to do it, and nobody bats an eye. So
For sure. So I would say that to artists listening to, do not undervalue your work. The fact that you love doing it is a plus, not a negative. It doesn't detract from your work. It adds more value to it, and that should be respectful. You should respect that. And as a business, like, figure it out. Do the unsexy work of crunching those numbers. Break down your material costs of what each paint would cost you. Break down your time of how long it takes you to do a painting. How much do you want to pay yourself? Add that onto it. And then general rule of thumb for businesses is like, then you add 20% and that's your profit. So you take your materials, you take your time, and then 20% is your profit margin. And that goes back into the business for you to continue doing what you're doing. That's kind of the pricing model that I use for my work. There's a number of different ones out there. That's one I would recommend to start with.
we know that you and Danny are art buds.
Mhm.
Do you have any other art buds?
Do you guys want to be my art buds?
Totally. I think
Awesome.
we already are.
Maybe.
That's why
Art
you're
buzz to
here.
shout out a lot of people you could see at CAAT July 23rd to 29th at Beaver Hall. Ash Slash, who's the organizer. I think the Instagram handle is Diving Out of Touch. You can look them up. They do really wonderful portraits, very dark, very goth portraits, but they actually will take multiple portraits of a figure on canvas and tear them up and then sew them all back together for this like weird Frankenstein look to
I
them.
don't know if I know them, but I definitely have seen work like that, and it's incredible.
Yeah, he's a pretty incredible artist.
What's coming up next for you? You mentioned that you had some other shows in the hopper. What's on the agenda?
Coming up, I think next is Canadian Affordable Arts Toronto.
Oh, Danny's in
which
that show
is
as well.
a show with Danny. Yeah, that'll be July 23rd to the 29th, I believe. That is at Beaver Hall Gallery on McCall Street, right down.
Oh, right by the AGO.
Right by the AGO, just south of OCAD.
Cool.
A cool little space.
So you've got that. Do you have any other?
Oh, yeah. And then tentatively, I have Queen West Art Crawl coming up in September. And then I'm talking to another artist. Him and I are going to be doing a show also in Toronto.
Where can people find you on the socials?
You can find me at Frankie Throw Up right now, which is a punk handle that I made when I was 18, and I have sentimental attachments to.
Perfect. Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for having me. This has been fun.
And we're back. I forgot how wide-ranging that conversation had been. Catherine, what were your key takeaways?
I loved how Matt kind of brought to light the exploitation that we don't always recognize. And sorry, not always exploitation, the misunderstanding. And it gave us gave me a better understanding of how to move forward next, to value my art, because I don't know if I valued my art the way I should. How about you? Anything exciting that you kind of held in your head?
Yeah, I agree. I think Matt's thoughts around the value of art and the importance of pricing your art appropriately in a way that's fair to us as artists is it's a lot of food for thought for sure.
And I think at the very end, he made a very good point of realizing if you want the community to see you and to recognize you, you do need to leave your house. I understand that personally. There are times when I really struggle to leave my house. So I think that's a sentiment we all feel.
Totally. If you enjoyed this episode, you'd be doing us a real solid if you would like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to this podcast. Leave us a comment about what got your attention this episode, and most of all, share it with the artists and art cheerleaders in your life.
We'll be back in a month with Ruth Linda Morton, who gets into the nitty-gritty of how she runs her art business. You won't want to miss this one. Thanks for listening.
I forget what we're talking about.